Paul.
Thank you, Simon.
Thanks for coming to Testify with Sam and the not-so-present Marsh at the moment.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of weight.
He's lost all of it. He'll, I think he'll be here in a little bit, but that's cool. Mate, thank you very much for coming in.
Fine.
Yeah, I guess today we just want to have a chat and talk about, your life and how that's been, how God's been in that, and what's been happening with your journey. So I guess the first question is, how's life at the moment? Where are things at for you? Are you working? Are you spending most of your time with your grandkids?
A bit of everything, because since I finished up or retired from actually paying work, I'm now more on the voluntary side of things.
Full-time volunteer.
Well, that's right. And so spending lots of time with family and friends. And,
awesome.
And just helping some of the elderly people that we've known over the years, and because they're in their 90s, friends, and they need help.
Of course.
So we're grounded, so to speak. We can't fly to Israel or to America to see the family, so we're locals at the moment, which is good. So
local missionaries at the moment.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so good. I know some of your grandchildren and your son-in-law, more so. Oh, sorry, your daughter-in-law, your son. You're spending a lot of time with them. Is that the majority of the time you're spending as well?
Yeah, probably. Well, not a heap of time, because Jade's parents spend a lot of time up there as well. So we all do a bit of everything. We're up there the other night. Well, they had a date night, and we'll see them tomorrow for Christmas Eve and for Christmas Day the next day. So. But we spent a bit of time with them and different people around the place, and I just connect with Rosie on a daily basis, and Ryan on FaceTime with the kids from the States. So For people who don't know, tell us a bit about Rosie and Ryan, your kids overseas. Yeah, well, our daughter is married to Ryan, and they live in California, and they moved back there in May last year. And Alistair's on the coast here, and with Jade, but we're all living together in the US, in Hawaii, for many years, and involved with YWAM at the time, and so it was good family time. But we all came back in 2015, but then that's changed again with Rosie and Ryan going back to the States, where his parents are still living, so he's helping with them.
I can remember them leaving. Where were we at with COVID when that happened?
That was a year ago, so that was May 2019.
Oh, that was much before that, hey?
That's right.
Sorry, they've been
home over nearly a year and a half.
Sorry. So
it's all happened since then. So in March, COVID happened. We got to see them in March, but the day after we arrived in California, the message was all Australians overseas get home as soon as possible. So we only had a week with them and had to come back again on the last flight with Qantas. So
did you cut your trip short?
Yeah. We're hoping to be there 6-7 weeks. And
no!
In fact, we were also going off to Israel, but we had to. That was cancelled. Israel was closed, so we just forgot that part of the leg and just focused on. We were then going to focus just on California, but that got reduced to a week. So,
what was that? Flights cancelled, non-refundable, or
no? The El Al, which is the Israeli Airlines, refunded the whole lot.
Oh wow!
Which was good, and Qantas was. We just changed the return date because we were going to go there anyway.
Yes,
on the way over, so it worked out well. Yeah, so it wasn't too bad, apart from not having a lot of time with the family. From six
odd weeks to a 1 week.
1 week to 6 days, basically. So.
And then when you got back, how quickly did everything sort of?
Yeah, it just type of took off then. We got in before we had to quarantine in a hotel. We got back and could quarantine in our own apartment, so that was better than expected, I guess. So for a lot of people, it's been terrible. But since then, it's been, we've been okay. And we're just, as everyone, praying and hoping things will get sorted out quickly.
Not a round 2 or
that's right,
round 3, whatever we're up to.
Exactly, yeah.
That's good. So helping around, how often? So I'm thinking helping around the coast and people that are here and spending time with your family. But back to Israel and traveling and those sorts of areas. How often were you guys traveling?
Well, when I got saved when I was 40 years old, so that was I was a late starter. So that was in
5 years ago.
1991.
Wow.
So 70 next year. I
Come
turned.
on.
But so as soon as I was saved, I said I think we need to go to Israel, and which was quite a shock because Michelle had been saved for 10 years prior to me. So I was a very slow starter. It took me a while to suss it out and make sure that it was the right decision.
Good.
But we've been going backwards and forwards since 1991 with the family.
Had she been before?
No, she hadn't. No.
Your first time going over was together?
Yeah. We went over with a mini tour, and it was only for 10 days, but it was it was the start, and then the connections from there.
What was that like the first time? I've never been. I've only seen photos and we read about it. And but what was it like the first time being there? Like, explain, how did that feel?
Well, for a new believer, it was fantastic because you had read about the Bible and the stories, etc. And we actually started off in Greece, and we flew into Athens and then took a tour up the coastline through places like Corinth, and all of a sudden the Bible gets open at the book of Corinthians. And we're actually in the place where this book was written and what it was all about. So from there we went to Thessalonica.
Is this on a tour?
On a tour.
And are they taking you through like...
Yeah, well, the pastor who was leading it, a guy from New Zealand, he was just opening his Bible all the way through it. It was a bus of 50, but we only had about 40-odd people, so there was room to move around in the bus. And so we went right up the coastline of Greece and then flew across to Tel Aviv in Israel, and then had more time in Israel. But it was right at the start when a lot of the Jewish people were coming in from overseas, from Russia and Europe and Ethiopia, etc. And you'd see people walking down the streets with these turbans, and it was just an incredible feeling to be walking in the land where the Bible was written about our faith.
All right.
So I learned a lot.
That's what I was going to say. I'm a visual, and like I learn by doing, seeing and doing. So I would just love that so much.
Well, yeah, that's right. You come back, and then all of a sudden the Bible really opens up to you. You can actually visualize, the Western Wall where the Jewish pray. It's mainly the Orthodox Jewish pray, but also we were then connecting with the Messianic Jewish people who were the believers in the land, so who believe in Christ, because the Orthodox...
Yeah, he's still yet to come.
That's right.
Yeah.
The first coming's still to come for them, but we're waiting for the second coming now. So,
do they hold him as a prophet?
Yeah, mainly, as a prophet. And
they love to kill their prophets, eh?
That's right.
He's just a prophet. We killed him just like the others.
Oh, that's right. It's just quite amazing to stand on the Mount of Olives and know that that's where Jesus ascended to heaven from, and where he's coming back to.
And how accurate is, like, are they certain? Like, when you're there, are they, because no doubt it's real good for the tour guides to be like, this was his house. This is, Yeah,
well, there's a rating system over there that the guides use, and they say that's a 6 out of 10 or that's a 1 out of 10. That's a definitely 10 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
So they tell you what they, is really authentic.
So they've created a rating system for that purpose.
That's right. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah.
How many below 5s are there?
Oh, I can't remember. There's a few, but it depends on who you talk to.
Yeah. Okay.
And the main Jerusalem, City of David. The City of David's just amazing.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, that's right. It's I could talk for hours on it. It's just and the ministry groups that we connect with there, and have been since a long time now. It's just incredible what's happening over there.
Oh, I just love it. Hey,
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
it's pretty special. I know, we've got technology. I can look up. You can look up places, and sometimes when I'm studying, You know, I look up things, and we bought a Bible a long time ago, just before Semi and I first got married, actually. And it's a big old study Bible with a lot of pictures and stuff in it, and it's amazing. It shows some of the scrolls that they uncovered where they're drawing some of their facts from now. Yeah. But there's nothing like I said, I'm visual. Yeah. There's nothing like seeing it. So
if you go down to the Dead Sea, for instance, and the Qumran caves, which is where they found a lot of the scrolls, and you just look up at these caves and the mountains, you think, wow, this is where they found, you know, the scribes had written in the jars, put the writings in the jars of clay, and they were found in those caves, those very caves. Oh, wow. They're now in the Israeli museum in Jerusalem.
Yep.
So you can actually go and visualise them. They're all been digitised now, so you can go online and read them.
Yes.
But just to drive down the valley of the Dead Sea and look up and see these places, you think, wow, that's real.
Yeah, far out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very good. I might jump back to when you were 40. So you were already married?
Yep, we were married. We've been married 46 years this year. So we're up there. So 74, we got married.
Come on.
And I was working full time in real estate as a general manager of different companies.
You were just so real estate was your
profession.
Oh wow, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I started off as a real estate valuer in Melbourne, and then came up through leasing, sales, property management, and then running the organisations. And that's been a real blessing, particularly after becoming a believer, because a lot of my work involved connecting and looking after clients overseas, in Japan and the US, etc. I had to travel and make sure they were happy with the service they were getting from the firm and the individuals, so I could then use that travel time, once I was saved, to go and visit different ministries all over the world. And the owners of the companies that I worked for were quite happy for me to do that.
This is commercial, obviously. You're not selling.
No, I'm not personally selling, but I'm managing. But we did commercial, we did residential, project marketing, the whole lot. You know.
What company was it?
Well, the last company was PRD.
Oh, when they're still around?
Yeah,
PRD.
Still around, yeah. So I was general manager of the corporate office. We had 75 staff, so that kept me pretty busy. I was there for 10 years, and prior to that was a company called Knight Frank, which was a big commercial international agency as well. But once I got saved, there's obviously changes because you're dealing in a secular real estate world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had to adapt and be prepared in different situations in the business world. It can be, some of the things you've got to really be careful. So there's no compromise in your walk.
Yeah, of course.
When you're working, because a lot of these guys just want to go out and party and et cetera, et cetera. So I always had my exit strategy ready. I'm sorry, I can't join you at the nightclub tonight because I've got to do this report and go back to the
plenty of work to do. Plenty of work to do.
That's right. Yeah.
But that's interesting because I deal with similar things now. Because ingrained in some businesses are certain ways that you operate, and it's something where I'm working now, I enjoy it. We have a pretty good moral, but sort of the moral compass is okay. It's pretty good. It's pretty honest. But that is something that was there things that when you got saved, where it was ingrained in how you operated, and you had to change that, or
well, with the first company, they were pretty good, but there was still that party element. It's work hard and then go out to the nightclubs and all that. And so I was able to extricate myself from that. And they knew, I was a believer. So they didn't push it too hard.
Yeah.
But if I was I remember one time in Vancouver, I was in a conference over there with the PRD group, and they were all going out for drinks and go to the nightclub. And I said, look, I'll have to excuse myself. I've got to do a report and it's got to be done. And another guy looked at me and he said, oh, look, I've got another report I've got to do too. And he turned out he was a Christian too, and I didn't know he was. So he used my lead to get out of it as well. So we both didn't put ourselves in a compromising position.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you start to connect a bit more, you two?
Yeah.
Awesome.
He ended up going to New Zealand from Canada.
Oh, so he was based there.
He was based in Canada.
Oh, that's cool.
And he went to New Zealand to look after a big project that we were marketing over there. And so I connected with him a few times over the years, and he's no longer with the company. But yeah, just got to be really careful and have wisdom in what you do, and don't put yourself in a place where you're going to see or potentially be involved in things you don't want to be.
Yeah. See, there's so much stuff around these days, so it's kind of easy for me. I just blame everything on my family. My wife wants me home. Oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got the kids, and that's fine because people are like, oh, yeah, or they might just put it down to you poor bugger, and it's like, poor bugger. I'm spending time with my family.
Yeah.
But this for me was had some challenges, which I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are. It like little lies. When we're selling something, when, for argument's sake, we win a contract, subcontractors quoted a price on that, we win that, we want to make more money. You go back and say to the, subby, hey, we're struggling to get this job across the line. Can you drop your price a bit? We just won the job, but we want to make more money. But that's how the company operates.
Right.
And you're now the person in the position to make that thing operate. And so I'm like, that's tough because it is lying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's normal business. And is it hurting anyone? This is something that I'm potentially dealing with at the moment.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, I guess we didn't have that so much. We just had to win the appointment.
Yeah.
And we did it based on our expertise, past performance, etc. And we wouldn't win them all. And in fact, we turned down a lot of business because the developer wanted us to put in writing certain rates per square metre or price ranges we could get for, say, a block of apartments, and that was going to be taken to the finance company.
Yeah, okay, so it's all...
Yeah, and we just say, no, we can't do it. And I said, what do you mean you can't do it? You can just put down those figures. I said, no, we're not putting down what we don't believe in. So,
wow.
And we lost some very big jobs.
Was that a call on your conviction, or was that the company's?
No, that was because I was general manager, I had the say with the head of my project marketing division in this particular case. There was actually 3 cases, which I won't name because it's...
It's okay.
But and there were 3 huge cases, and interestingly, 3 of them, the whole 3 of them actually all collapsed, didn't proceed, and went into receivership. So we would have been tagged then with failed projects. So actually we were by being honest and upfront with our convictions, we were protected.
How good is that?
So that was really good. And I think, when I first became a believer, one of the guys that type of talked to me a bit, because it took me about 5 years to become a believer.
Yeah, let's talk about
church.
I want to talk about this. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he said, "Look, you want to read a book called No Compromise by Keith Green," and so I read that book, and then I got the music, the album, and Psalm 51. Creating me a clean heart, and a right spirit, and I think that's been. I've always thought of that song when something comes up, or if you just you're walking down the beach and particularly Burleigh these days, it's your eyes are just attacked by
I hate
people walking along, and you just got to turn away and no compromise, and I think that's the key to it, but. But anyway, so going back.
Can I, sidetrack one question to that with the no compromise and the beach. I train at the beach all the time.
Right.
And me and Sammy are constantly talking about this. From your perspective, over the last 30 odd years, has it gotten ridiculously worse, or is it kind of just circling around?
Ridiculously worse.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think in the last 10 years particularly, so we went to the States full time in in 2008. When we got back to the Gold Coast in 2015, the amount of gymnasiums that had sprung up and all the guys, all built up.
Oh, you mean down the beach?
Yeah. And generally speaking on the coast, there might have been, 20 gymnasiums back in 2008. There's got to be 200 out there now.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Everyone's building the body up.
Yeah.
And, the guys walking along and the girls and all the show-off situation.
Yeah.
And it's just gone, completely out of control to the point where you really don't want to take your grandkids down there to those beaches particularly for a swim because their eyes are just, it's in their face.
Yeah, it's somewhat of an adult's
yeah.
magazine or a movie down there.
Exactly, yeah. So I think it's really gone bad from that point of view.
Okay.
So anyway.
No, that's interesting. I totally agree. I love the fact that there's that many people working out and doing things and being healthy. I love that. It's awesome.
It's fine.
But you can do that with clothes on.
Exactly.
You can even in summer you can do it with clothes on.
That's right.
You might sweat a little bit more, but it's okay.
Exactly.
I actually said to Sammy like 2 weeks ago, I'm like, I can't remember what women used to train in like when I was a kid. I literally can't remember because now it's just that. It's like the lycra skin stuff, and it's barely any of that. So,
that's right, yeah.
No, that's cool. Thanks for answering that. But sorry, we'll jump back. So, the first 5 years.
I think Michelle had been a believer before me for 10 years.
Wow.
And when we moved up to the Gold Coast in '86, she was going to church with some friends, and that was fine with me. Good, you can go.
Yeah.
I'll go for a surf.
Yeah.
But then when Alistair and Rosie were starting to grow up, I wanted them to get the right foundation, the biblical foundation. So
it's interesting because you didn't have it, but you wanted it for them.
Yeah, well, I was brought up, I went to an Anglican church in Sydney when I was a kid. Parents went there, and I did Sunday school. I was, I think baptised in the Anglican church. I went to a Methodist school in Sydney, but it was just like church schools and no understanding, no real depth of experience with Jesus. It was just something you did.
Still the same thing happening today.
Exactly, yeah. So when we came up here, I started to go to church and the kids, etc. Because I thought, it's a good foundation, it's necessary, etc. And so I kept on going for about 5 years until I finally had sussed it out to the point where I agree with that, I understand that, and I made a decision. It wasn't like an overnight decision where I was desperate because, living in the West, if you've got a job, it's pretty easy going. What else do you need?
Yes.
And I hadn't really given any thought to what else there was out there. Like most of the guys I still, are friends with and, had breakfast with this morning, they're not believers. They're good people. So I'm trying to, encourage them to really think outside their standard box. And I think the big problem is that a lot of people think of church being a Christian is it's a religious exercise. And I remember once I was told there's a Latin word called religare, and religare means to bind. You don't want to be bound in religion.
Wow.
I thought that was really good piece of advice. Don't be bound. And you shouldn't be bound. You should just have a relationship with the Lord. And, that's it, and read the word and believe, etc. You don't have to sit in a church or a cathedral.
Yes.
You don't have to have all the icons and things like that a lot of religions go for.
Yeah.
It's just that personal relationship. And I think that's the way to get more people an understanding of what Christianity and becoming a believer, because most of my friends are 70 onwards or at least 65 plus. And I say, look, you're 2/3 of your life through. If you have a really long life,
if you're lucky,
you're lucky,
yeah,
and people are dropping off all the time, you got to know you're going to go north or south. There's no in between.
Yeah,
and so I try to get to people, and people that I've been talking to like for 10, 15 years now. I'm planting some seed. Someone else might water it.
Yeah,
but they know the message that I'm saying, even though they haven't actually said, I believe and I'll say the sinner's prayer.
Yes.
In most cases.
There's a couple things there. Firstly, though, the 10 years, that's, I'm learning more so now than ever. That's what it's about. It's not about, what can I rattle into them real quick? You got to, it's like, no, they're going to learn from just being with me. If this is real, if this is real, they'll look and they'll go, man, that's something real.
That's right.
Which is what you did. And I love that. That's not a common thing. I think the most common thing for Christianity and for people getting saved is having nowhere to go and being broken. And that's beautiful because, it allows God to rebuild your life and for you to find hope and meaning, which is, what God's about is grace and his love. But I love that you calculated, for 5 years, you're like, well, that and that's powerful because there's a lot of thinkers. I imagine you quite deep in thought. You process things, and no wonder it's, your job probably was about that.
It's a logic. Business is logical, and I'm a logical person, so I need to, and I do research. I make sure before I make a decision, I've checked every avenue to make sure that at the best of my ability, that's the right decision.
So good.
And it was basically the same what I applied to becoming a believer. I just, sussed out, the situation. There was examples that I wasn't happy with.
Yes.
And we all know of
still
situations like that.
Still is plenty today.
That's right. And so you could take all that into account when you're making, when I was making my assessment. So I just, but once I decided to become a believer, then it all started with, as I said, the first trip was, let's go to Israel.
How quickly did that happen?
Within the year.
No way.
Yeah. So we just, Michelle had been thinking about it. She'd love to go, but it wasn't until I said, well, look, now I'm a believer, we should go. And we took the whole family, and we had a great trip, and encouraged a lot of other people over the years to do the same.
I bet. I know a large handful of people that that have got trips planned as soon as they can.
That's right.
Because of you guys.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, can I just ask the question with your marriage? What was it like for Michelle when you actually, and did you? Well, obviously, if you went to Israel within the first year, you must have gone, okay, let's flip the switch while I'm onto something here. How was that for her? I probably need to ask her that question one day. We'll get her on. But from her telling you, how was that for her? Was she just over the moon?
Yeah. Yeah. She just couldn't wait, and she just wanted to go. And she's got a lot of friends who are also believers, and some where the husbands aren't believers, and still not. But she said, let's, we can't wait to go. And so it was a great opportunity that we were able to do that, and then that led to other missions, short-term missions. We went to India, and then we went to do our DTS with YWAM, and then that took us to the Ukraine. So we've had a lot of right into third world countries as well, and that's living on the coast. I believe it was good for our kids and for us to experience. Look, it's all not like the Gold Coast.
Oh. Yeah. There's not really any places like the Gold Coast.
No.
Yeah.
And it's, because the poverty in India was amazing, but the miracles we saw by going in to infectious diseases wards of hospitals and praying for sick kids and seeing their temperatures just go, and people with blindness, their cataracts just disappear, the whiteness go off their eyes. Until you get to do that, you really think, wow, this is amazing.
I love that. That's probably one of my something I'm so appreciative of is Noel and Janelle, mum and dad, taking me to the Philippines.
Yes, I was going to say the Philippines, you'd see that because they're hungry.
Oh, and you come back and it only lasts for a couple of weeks. It does something permanently to you, but the shock of it, like, I don't actually want to watch TV.
No.
I don't want to. I don't want anything. Like, how can I want something? I've just been driving around an old beat up truck with a big soup tin, handing out food to people that are living in a cemetery.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
it's crazy. So, I love what that did to me. And I think it's probably a part of my character, a part of the way I live now that I'm super thankful for, because when everything boils down, I've had a couple times where things have gone bad and I'm like, I'm all good. I live on the Gold Coast.
Right.
Like, what's going to happen to me? Even if I have no work, even if I have no possessions, I'll still get a payment from the government, and I can live with my parents, or I can live with someone that I know. Like we have no idea what struggle is here.
That's right.
So
when we went to the Ukraine, for instance, there was the government doctor there, state paid, and he was being paid $25 US per month. This is in 1996, just after the fall of the Commonwealth of the Communist Party, and but the people didn't even have money to pay him, so he was being paid in potatoes and vegetables and things like that. Now we just can't appreciate that.
No.
And he was living in a one-bedroom apartment, which was costing him $20 US a month. So he only actually had $5 US a month on average available. And he's a doctor, qualified person. It's just the stories that came out of that 2.5 months that we spent in the Ukraine is amazing.
Yeah, it's unimaginable for people that live here.
That's right. And I think that's the big blessing that I've had and that we've had as a result of working for companies and in the positions that I've had, that they want me to go overseas to do the business, but they've also been receptive to me taking a little bit extra time and staying over and visiting some of these places when I'm there, because I'm there anyway. They've paid me to go there, so I've actually got there. I've got a hotel room so Michelle can stay as well, no extra charge.
So good.
And they just credit my leave account and pay me, as long as I tell them what's happened when I come back. What are your stories? Now, a lot of these guys aren't believers, but they were just interested in what was happening in different parts of the world.
And that's seeds in itself there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think your example earlier saying it's what you do, you're the example.
Yes.
As long as you're the example and you're a good example, well, then that's half of the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and people don't want or need a 1 week example or someone jamming something down their throat. And the thing is we have access to so much stuff. So I'm not against street preaching. And I love that, because things can happen in those moments. But I also don't think it's always necessary. There's got to be a call for that and a call for that. But I believe as a Christian that and this might just be something that's for me, and maybe I should just keep it to myself, which I'm not very good at doing that, but is that it's a time thing, with people that are truly gonna experience God, people that don't want anything to do with it, it's gonna be something that over time they go, okay, I can see, I'm seeing your life, and you don't, your life isn't like mine. You're holding on to something, and that something seems to work. Well, let's talk more about it.
That's right.
I have a question in regards to you were calculated, so you weighed things up and you jumped in. I think a lot of Christians are like, God, reveal yourself to me. I want to see you, or do a miracle, or do whatever. You jumped in without that, and then what was it like when? Like, you obviously have seen some amazing things. What was the first time when something, a miracle or something unexplainable happened? What was that?
Yeah, well, we've had a couple of really amazing miracles, but I guess my first encounter with the Lord was in Jerusalem. And
of course.
and there was a 24/7 house of prayer called Sukkot Hallel. Hallel means praise, Sukkot means house, so house of praise. It's been going for a long time, 15, 20 years, I guess now. And it was actually, they'd taken over a disco in the Mount Zion Hotel overlooking the old city and converted it to a 24/7 house of prayer. And you can go online and look them up, Sukkot Hallel. Anyway, they've now moved to a different location, but you had hour sets, times you can go in and pray. And Michelle and I went in, we took a 1 hour set one day, and we're in there and we just put on some worship music, and we're worshipping, and I was playing some congas and just enjoying ourselves.
Getting right into it.
Yeah, and I just I was lying down and just praying, and all of a sudden I got a vision of the Lord, and the hotel, the Mount Zion Hotel, is on this main road called Hebron Road, which leads from Jerusalem to the ancient city of Hebron, where Abraham's actually buried and his family, which is down south of Bethlehem, down into the Negev area. Anyway, Hebron Road's pretty busy, people going up and down, tourists, locals. But as I looked and I saw Jesus walking down the road on the other side in the full robes, his robes of the day back when he was on earth, and the long hair and the beard, etc., passing all these people, and the Lord looked over at the 24/7 house of prayer and at us and just smiled, and in an acknowledgement that he was happy that there was two believers in there praying, worshipping him in a dedicated 24/7 environment. And then he just kept walking, and that was it.
Is this a vision your eyes are closed, or vision eyes are open looking out and you're seeing this?
Eyes are closed. I just
okay.
I was just lying on the floor, and then all of a sudden the vision came to me, and I just saw him.
Wow.
And it lasted probably a minute as he walked down. And, wow, he's walking down the road and there's people going past him, and he looked over, smiled in acknowledgement of what was happening. Whether he acknowledged us personally, I think he did. That he saw two of us in there. Because there's only two of us. There can be 100 people in there, can go in there in the prime time, so to
busy.
speak. We were just there during the day, and so that was a real miracle for us, for me anyway, and I told Michelle, of course. But,
what was the difference for you in that between a dream and that? Like, what was it about that you were like, oh?
Well, it's hard. I think a lot of people have visions, dreams and visions, and I guess I have them too, but I don't have that many to do with the Lord or with Christian things, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I might dream of a big surf or something like that.
A month in Hawaii.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that was a real big one for me. That's probably my major vision to have that occur.
Far out.
Yeah, and we've had the miracles, seeing people healed as well. As I said, with India.
What was that? Was the one that you explained to me the first one in India?
Yeah. We went out during the day. We were over there, and there was a group of say 10 of us. I think there was like 21 or maybe 30 people went over, and we broke up into 3 groups, and we'd go out during the day in a minivan, say 10 of us, and we'd walk the streets, doing some worship, handing out tracts. This is back in 92, 93. So, and when we all had the tracts to hand out.
That was just your little, is it a cassette?
Oh, no, this was actually a printed, pamphlet of, the road to salvation, etc.
Yeah.
And so we'd go out during the day, and then we'd have a meet. We'd come back to the hotel and rest, and then we'd go back again at night, and they'd rig up a stage with fluorescent tubes and these 2 big plastic bags full of sugar, liquid sugar, because all the bugs would be attracted to the fluorescent tubes, but they'd go to the liquid sugar. So these things were hanging off. It was really makeshift, stage presentation.
I thought you were going to
bugs in your mouth all the time.
I thought you were going to say it was liquid sugar for people to bring the people in. I'm like, I haven't heard of that before. That's a bit strange.
Attract them, yeah.
To attract the bugs.
To attract the bugs. So, and then we'd give testimonies and lead people to the Lord, and it was just amazing because we were the white people. We were the white attraction because we were going out into villages that had never seen white people.
Oh, before. I can only imagine. 90s.
92, 93, and we'd be driving 2 hours out of the main city, which is Madurai, which is down south, and you just go out there, and it was quite an experience for everyone. To see that, it was really quite a.
I can just imagine.
Yeah.
That 2004, people in the Philippines and stuff
Yeah.
are still pretty amazed, come running out of their huts when they see a white person walking past.
That's right.
So early 90s
Yeah.
would have been the first white person they'd ever see. Or
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, and the subsequent, teams have gone back like they do with the Philippines.
Yeah.
And you reinforce what you've sowed into those locations, and your salvations come from them. That's really a great experience.
So awesome.
Yeah,
man. So good. Have you been to the Philippines?
No, I haven't been to the Philippines.
I'm
No.
surprised you haven't been with Noel and Janelle. They're there every.
Yeah, well, we spend most of our time in Israel. We're very connected with a lot of ministries in there, Messianic believers. 'Cause a lot of people go to Israel and just do the tour, the main parts, and that's fine to do that.
Yeah.
But you really, your second trip, when you go back in, you really need to connect with the believers in the land. And there's a lot of really good ministries. But, of a population of about 7.5 million in Israel, there's only 30,000 Messianic believers, which is Jewish people who have accepted Jesus as their Saviour.
Wow, only 30,000.
30,000 out of 7.5 million.
Yeah.
And they're Christian Arabs and also Jewish believers. So we connect with all those groups and serve and whatever we can. And then the main thing is then we come back, and by having those experiences, we can connect and be a conduit to ministers, pastors, whoever on the Gold Coast, or friends and family who have never been there but want to go there. And we can say, well, look, you should go and connect with Sukkot Hallel, 24/7, or this ministry or that ministry. And it's really good because it saves a lot of
time and a lot of. I think when it probably won't be for a while because of the kids, but when we go, I'll definitely we'll either tag along with you guys if we can, or you just here's our money, plan the trip.
Plan the trip.
Plan the trip for us.
Our last trip was last year, and it's now Australian House of Prayer operating in Mount Carmel.
No way.
Called Elohim House of Prayer. And some good friends of ours, pastors from Dalesford, Victoria, they have established it in October 2017. And so they've got a house in Mount Carmel. So, obviously everyone recognises, Elijah, Mount Carmel, and prophets of Baal and all that. So they're there overlooking the Jezreel Valley. And it is an amazing place. And accommodations available there. And you can go over, and we go over and stay there.
Just beautiful.
People come in from all over the world. But it's an Australian House of Prayer.
How cool is that?
Yeah, so actually Glenn and Coralie Robotham, who are the people that we know, they'll be up in the new year, and they've been to chapel before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Marshall knows them. Really great couple.
Awesome people.
So you can connect with some Aussies in the land. But the other good thing about Israel is that for the Anzacs in World War I, on the 31st of October 1917, was the charge, the light horse charge. I don't know where you...
briefly, yes, very briefly, yes. Yeah. But please tell me.
So it was a 100-year anniversary on the 31st of October 2017 from 1917. So it's they've just had that anniversary, and they did a mock-up charge. They actually had quite a few horses there, and they charged in the same area where they charged. And basically, the British were trying to take the wells of Beersheba, because they were the main water supply, to allow them to attack and take over from the Turks Jerusalem. Because the Ottoman Empire were controlling Jerusalem up to that point. But they couldn't get through. They called on the Australian and New Zealand Anzac forces, and they did this charge, got into the wells, and allowed the water supply to nourish the troops, etc., and that allowed them to then conquer and get into Jerusalem. And that's when Jerusalem came back into the hands of the British in 1917, and then up until 1948, when the State of Israel was proclaimed, when Israel became its own nation. So there's a lot of history there, and there's a lot of Jewish people, the older ones obviously, or their families, that are just so, when you say you're an Australian or a New Zealander,
They're good.
arms around you, you did
that's
this,
awesome.
You did this for us, and so there's a real connection.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a lot of that. I think partly because we're such a young country,
That's
but
right.
but that's awesome. That's pretty special.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these things, it's important for your generation and younger to hear them, because things go by, and I didn't know that. That's real history there.
And we don't. It's one thing I regret as a young person. I don't regret not caring about a lot of school stuff because I'm doing all right. Yeah. But I had to work hard to learn other things. But history, I just was not interested one bit. But now I'm very intrigued by it. I love it, and I feel like I'm so far behind. Like you would be. I'm embarrassed at the lack of knowledge I have, just even about our own country, let alone other places around the world. But I totally agree.
Yeah.
History is very important. I did learn. Do you know who Lord Kitchener is?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord Kitchener is like a great. I don't know. I'm probably gonna.
British politician.
No, he was a warlord for the Brits. He's like my great uncle or something.
Yeah.
I learned that when researching not that long ago, he was a big deal. He's like, Uncle Sam, We Want You?
Yeah.
That originally came from him.
Oh, right.
But for the Brits, and the Americans stole it. So
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, we'll start to wrap it up, but before I guess we could wrap up on what do you got planned for the future? I know COVID's it's not the best question because we're at the mercy of what we can do. Traveling's a bit limited, but
well, I think we're spending more time obviously at home, and I think we'll do some travelling around Queensland. Not go too far afield from Queensland, I think, at this stage.
Yeah.
But just prepare, get ready to go. Speak where we can to as many people that we come across, and particularly the guys that I've worked with over the years, because as I said, time can be very short. It can be, your life can be over very quickly unless you speak up.
Yeah.
They don't know, and a lot of people just don't know. Some people, young kids, have never heard of the Bible, which is amazing because it's not being taught. So I think it's up to us to get out there. But the other thing is obviously, in my time, you read the Bible, but you don't realise that it was written by Jewish scribes.
Yeah.
Old and New Testament. Jesus was Jewish. He, born in Israel.
Yeah.
Or in Nazareth. He left the Mount of Olives. He's coming back. So we really should have a better understanding of that epicenter, because that's where it's all happened, and it's going to happen again.
Yeah, we didn't get really time to, but I wanted to ask you one thing, because something that's been happening lately for me is getting into the translating of the Bible, and we view things in a Western way. We don't really understand how they think, their circular way of thinking, and those sorts of things. And I'm just going to ask you, and if we go over time, we'll be all right. But how has there been some significant things in the way that you understand the Bible and understand your walk with God that have changed, that you've seen and you'd have to adjust? And I don't necessarily mean foundational. It's more just sort of secondary beliefs. Have you experienced that a couple times, or?
I guess the examples I could give would be you're taught one way, which is more, the Greek way of thinking, but when you get to the Jewish Hebraic way of teaching, that's because the Bible is Hebraic.
Yes.
That's the foundation document, and it's how you interpret that document.
Which is...
Yeah, and I think a lot of the interpretations, unfortunately, steered away from and not inconsistent with the word. So we've got friends who are Jewish, and one young guy who's probably 45 now, young in my terms.
Yeah.
He's a rabbi, and what he could bring out, the meaning of those texts in comparison to what it actually just says in the Bible that we read,
it's
completely it's got so much more depth.
Yeah.
So I think, that's, we're Christians, they're, Jewish people, but we're merged in together, the one new man situation. But it doesn't mean the Jewish people have to become Christians or the Christians have to become Jewish people or take on Judaism.
Yeah.
And you can have extremes in those situations too. It's just an understanding of the roots of our faith. And if you do that and take that interpretation from the Hebraic side as opposed to the Greek side of thinking, I think you've got a much better grounding.
I love that because it encourages growth, learning, go and have a look deeper. Don't just hear what you're being taught from the pulpit. Not that that's wrong, but if that's your only food, you're hungry.
That's
you
right.
might not know it. You're malnourished. You need some more to eat.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Randall, thank you so much for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
having us, yeah.
You're a real blessing to our community. Your whole family are, and we're thankful for you. So thank you, mate.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good. No, I enjoyed coming in, and certainly enjoyed chapel. I think last Sunday was amazing, and both services, and we're just the number of people coming in the chapel and the community, and it's good because it's not just middle-aged, old, or all youth. You need
good combination.
Right across the combination, and one particular school we did in YWAM was all nations, all generations. I think that's the key thing to be aware of. All nations, but all generations. So as long as we stick with that, it's
Come
good.
on.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, mate.
Okay.